Hi guys, so now that you've completed lesson 1, you should hopefully understand how to get some code onto your Microbit. So now we can actually do something a bit more fun. This week we're going to learn how to code this cute little guy here, who we've called Cody. He's our Micropet, and he's a bit like a basic version of a Furby or a Tamagotchi. So he's a very sleepy Micropet, so he's going to start off sleeping, and we're going to wake him up by shaking him. And when we wake him up, he's going to decide whether or not he wants to wake up or go back to sleep, depending on how bright the room is. So if it's still dark outside, he doesn't want to wake up. He wants to stay asleep. So let's get coding. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to go to the Microbit blocks coding environment like we did before. A quicker way is just to type in the URL that's up the top here into your browser. Now, if you still have code here from the previous lesson, you can create a new project, a blank one, by going Projects and New Project. And then you'll get a whole new project to work on. So first thing we're going to do is give it a name so that we can save it and go back to it. So let's call it MicroPet. Now we're going to get rid of the forever block like we did before, but this time we're going to use the onStart block, because we want our Micropet, as soon as it starts up with the battery connected, we want him to have a sleepy face. So let's make a sleeping face for him. So we go to Basic, and we want Show Icon. Hope you remember this from last time. We drag it out to the onStart block, and when it goes yellow, we will let go. Now you can change the icon to this one here. See, it says asleep. So if you want to just test that, we can go to the simulator, and you can see that as soon as you connect up your battery, you're going to get the sleepy face. So this onStart block is really useful to do anything that you want your Microbit to do as soon as power comes on. So what I normally do, you don't have to do this, but this is just a little tip. What I like to do is to show a string as soon as my Microbit turns on, so that I know what code I've added. This lesson will be obvious because the sleeping face will come up, but sometimes if you've been working on lots of projects and you're swapping over different code onto the Microbit, you want to make sure you've got the right code and you know what's happening when you turn it on. So that's just a little tip. You can remove that if you like. And now, then, if you remember at the start, I said we're going to wake up our Micropet by shaking him. So let's move the onStart block over here so we've got some room. Now, luckily, the Microbit can sense when it's shaken or when it's moved really quickly. And that is a type of input. So it's something we do to it. So we're going to go to the input block, and here you have onShake. Now the part of the Microbit that senses when we shake it is called the accelerometer, and you can do some really cool things with it. You can it can work out when you tilt it to the left or right, if you've dropped it, whether the screen with the buttons and the lights is facing up or whether it's facing down. But for now, we're just going to use the shake one. Now we need to work out when the level of the light in the room is high enough that the Microbit wants to wake up. So if it's dark in the room, our pet is going to still be really sleepy, just like if you're woken up in the middle of the night or really early in the morning, say to go to school, and you don't want to wake up. It's going to go back to sleep if it's too dark. So to do this, we have to use something called an if statement. And it's really straightforward. It is simply a case of saying, if the room is dark, then go back to sleep. Else, that's like saying otherwise, wake up. So to do an if statement, that's under logic. So we click on here, and we want if, then, else. So grab this one here and drag it under onShake. Oh, I nearly forgot. If you were shaken up, you'd feel a bit shocked and a bit startled, wouldn't you? So we're going to give him a startled face as soon as he's shaken. That helps us as well to know that if the face changes to the shocked face, then we know that our code is working and picking up the shake. So let's go back to basic. We're going to grab the show icon again and drag that out and put that as the first thing in this pink on shake block. So we're going to change this, and let's find the face we want. This one here, surprised face. Because he's going to be pretty surprised to be shaken awake. So going back to the if block, we've got if here, and then this is a condition. So a condition is something that can either be true or not true. So we want to say if there's no light in the room. So the way we do that, your microbit's really clever. Those little lights on the front of the microbit that we use to show these icons, they are also good for figuring out how much light is in the room. They have sensors on them that pick up the amount of light in it. So we can use that, and we have a good block here for doing that, and it's called the light level. So we want to figure out the light level. So again, light level, just like shake and just like the buttons, is another input. So we're going to go to input here, and you can see here is light level. So you can see the little tooltip is telling us that it reads the light level from the LED screen. So the LEDs are those lights that we have on the front of the microbit. So if we drag this here, and we can't put this straight on this block here because we have to change this bit first. So we want to be able to say if light level is 0, so there's no light in the room. 0 is when it doesn't pick up any light at all. So to do that again, we have to go back to logic. So we want this one here, and I'll explain in a second, and we want to put that there. So this little block says if the thing on this side equals, so is the same as, the thing on this side. So we're going to get our light level, and we're going to drag that here. Light level is a number, so it can be anything from 0 up to, I think it's 255. There we go. So 0 is dark and 255 is bright. So here we're saying if the light level is the same as 0, so there's no light in the room, then what do we want to do when it's dark? We want him to go back to sleep. So we're going to copy this block because we want it to show another sleepy face. But else is if this is not true. So we say if the light level is 0, then we're going to do this. Otherwise, so else is the same as otherwise. Otherwise, we're going to give him a happy face to show he's awake. So let's go and get another icon block. We put that there. Let's change that to a happy face. So can we find a happy face? There we are. So if we can now test this in the simulator over here. And you'll see that our microbit in the simulator has suddenly got this thing up here that saying shake. So we can test the on shake block, this pink on shake. See, it doesn't do anything at the moment. We can press the buttons, doesn't do anything, but because we've shaken it by moving around or by pressing this, then it goes surprised face and then it goes happy. The reason it goes happy is the light level up here, which says 128, is higher than 0. So light level is 128, and if we look here, so we could say light level is 128, and 128 is not 0, so he wakes up. But if we turn this to, okay, that's the brightest it can go, so that's the darkest it can go. So if we shake him again, he goes back to sleep because the light level is 0. Now, if you want to, you can save this and copy it across onto your microbit and then go and test it in a dark room. what you'll probably find is that you can't get it dark enough for the light level to be 0. So I've tested this in a few rooms, but the way we need to test it to find out the right light level to say that it's dark is there's another clever thing we can do where we can get the microbit to read the light level in the room and then to show us the numbers of the light level on the screen, so on the microbit screen, so that we can figure it out, so we can figure out what the light level is. So we're going to do this when you press the B button. We want the microbit to tell us how much light is in the room. So if you remember from the previous lesson, we want to choose on button pressed. So you can choose A or B. So we can say on button A pressed. And then we're going to use something called a variable. A variable is just a way of storing a number for later. So this light level here, this changes depending on how much light. So this will always be whatever light is currently in the room. But if we want to save what the value of it was to use it later, we use something called a variable. So we're going to go to variables, and we want to click make a variable. We're going to call it level for the light level. So we click OK. And now I'm going to grab this one that says set, because this is how we store a value into the variable. And then we click on here, and we can choose our level variable. Now what we're trying to store in level is the light level that's in the room when we press this button A. So we want to go and get light level from input. I'm going to grab this and drag it over here. So all this is doing is this is reading the current amount of light that's in the room using your microbit, and it's keeping that value in something called level. And then we can use this later to do other things with it so that we don't forget what number this is. So now we've read the light in from the room and we've stored it in a variable. Now what we want to do is make the microbit print that number of the light level out onto the screen so that we can see. So we need to go into basic and grab show number. And now the number we want to show is the number that we stored in this level variable. So if you go into variables again, and grab the one that says level and drag this on top of where it says 0. So this will now print out whatever number we stored up here into level. It will print it out onto the microbit screen. But when we've done that, the number will stay on the screen. We don't want it to stay forever, we just want it to flash up. So what we're going to do is we're going to put him back to sleep after we've read the number. So let's get the sleepy face again. Let's put that there. Now, if we go to the simulator, so we're going to wake him up by shaking him. You can do it like this. There we go. Now we know, because we can see, that the light level in the room is 128. So if we press button A, we can test our code that reads how much light is in the room and then stores it in the level variable and then shows it on screen. So let's press button A. So it says 128, and then he goes back to sleep. So we can wake him up again. So if we now change this to 0, we press button A again, you see it says 0. Because it tells us that now there's no light in the room at all. It's a bit difficult to understand what it's doing by just looking at the simulator, so I highly recommend, if we close the simulator, save the code. So I'm going to save this in my coding folder, and it will automatically give it the name of your project. Click Save. Now, if you go and load this onto the microbit, take it into different rooms with different lights on, or go in one room and try turning the lights on and off, and try and see what different numbers you can get coming up on screen. And then you'll be able to see if you go into, say, your bedroom and turn the lights off and pretend that you're sleeping and press the A button and make a note of what number comes up on screen. And that is what we want to use in our if statement here. Now, I've done this a couple of times and I've found that the best way of doing it is to say if the light level is less than 20, because when it's a dark room, it's probably not completely dark, so we're probably looking at about 15, 16 and the light level. So I'm going to write 20 here, but we don't want it to be the light level equals 20 because we don't want it to say if it's 20, go back to sleep. We want to say if the light level is less than 20. So we're going to choose the less than. You can choose whatever number you like for this and then test it out in your house in different rooms with different lights on. So now that we've changed it to if light level is less than 20, we know that what it should be doing is if it's still dark outside when you wake him up, he'll go back to sleep. But if it's light enough and he wants to wake up, then you get a smiley face. So we're going to test that on the simulator now. So if we go back to our simulator, we're going to wake him up, give him a shake, or click the button. Now he's woken up. Now our light level is back at 128. So according to our code, if we just look at our if statement, saying if light level is smaller than 20. So our light level, we know from over here, our light level is 128. Now is 128 a smaller number than 20? No, it's not. So it shouldn't do this. It should go into this else block, so this otherwise bit. So we should get a smiley face when it wakes up because the light is high enough, and we can see that we have. So if we change the light level, we're going to test it now. We want to change it to a number that is smaller than 20. So let's turn it down. It doesn't have to be 0. But let's turn our light level to something less than 20, 11. There we go. I don't know why it's gone small. So now our light level is 11. So if we shake it now, he goes back to sleep because he's going, oh no, it's still dark. I don't want to wake up yet. So he's gone back to sleep. So go ahead and download this onto your Microbits and play with it around the house and see what light level he wakes up at. There you go. Well done.